something?
This is Tom Choffer.
Tom, nice to see you.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Is that you?
So
Just
wonderful.
I would want to say no to you.
Aren't you
Just
wonderful?
come on
Oh,
in.
I love your house.
Do you like my house?
Oh, you're wonderful. Look at how wonderful.
You have a big house. I remember when you remodeled your home many years ago. We talked about it. I remember that.
Listen, that's all I do.
We went to
is
Canyon
talk.
Ranch. Remember? We went to
Yes.
Canyon Ranch.
On New Year's.
And that's when you were doing. No one
It
had
was
ever
so hot, and
And
well,
you,
it's
you're still beautiful, but you were such a gorgeous little girl.
oh yeah.
And someone took this picture of us.
Isn't
I
that
gave the original one to my kids, but this is a copy.
Isn't this?
That was just
But
before
can
we
you
got married.
imagine we found
Just
them in
before.
the street?
You found me on the street.
just
yeah.
before.
Wow. And this is right around the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Oh,
a good.
that's wonderful.
Let's look at that and schedule
Right,
that.
it was right after we met. You came here, right after you
Yeah.
arrived.
You've only lived
But-
here a few months.
We were still in Europe.
Where?
We were still in Germany.
No,
Poland.
then, but this was taken over here.
This was, but wonderful, aren't
I
they?
have wonderful kids.
So you're careful to pass the legacy to your children very
We
clearly.
try, yeah. They like tapes, and if this tape comes out, they might like a copy.
Oh, absolutely. If it comes,
Oh, yeah.
it'll come
Wonderful
out.
kids.
It'll come
My
out.
daughter-
It's a great bunch of kids.
I know
Yeah.
they're wonderful.
My daughter Diane wrote a journal. It's unbelievable.
About you,
About
the
Isaac,
two of you?
about Isaac's life.
About you.
She
Yeah.
was studying on the Joe Schultz. Remember Joe Schultz in Kansas City?
I remember him.
And she was studying under him.
Really.
Today,
Yeah.
And she wrote a paper. So she wrote a paper about Isaac.
You know, I taped him on it was a
He was so
teaching
good.
thing about, it was about Zionism.
Can you imagine how
And
long
I've
we
got
know
it
each
in my
other?
house.
It is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
It's
He knew
amazing.
his business about
It's amazing.
Jews.
On the street.
Then
we met.
Diane wrote a book.
Wow.
At
the train station?
She wrote a journal because
Yeah.
she
Is
was
that
his
right?
student.
Is that
And
right?
so she
She said, where
wrote.
are you going?
At UMKC, it was a
UMKC.
Judaic Studies
Right.
program. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and you know, what is her name? Carla Klasner.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
She's really good. Should we, what are we supposed to do now?
Well, let's.
My wonderful neighbors and old friends.
Old friends.
Old friends.
I am
And
so
age
happy
and
to
time,
see
too.
you.
It means so much to me, and I appreciate your visiting.
We
with
were a
me.
couple young kids.
Before we start this,
We were
are you
three.
taping?
I just want you both to know how wonderful this occasion is and how happy I am
It's the
to
same
see you
with us.
both together and so healthy and happy and having such a wonderful life here. I think about you so often.
Almost 66 years.
That's exactly right. A long time, 62 years, I think. I remember very well that you didn't speak English, and I didn't speak Polish, and I didn't speak Yiddish, and I didn't understand Yiddish,
Yeah.
and yet we managed to
Yes,
communicate,
exactly.
didn't we? And
Yes.
I was just so totally thrilled to see you, and it was with a small group.
Yes.
And why don't you take it from there and just sort of
Yeah.
refresh
Yeah,
the
we're going to
whole
speak on the subject now
circumstance.
about, first of all, when this lovely young woman picked us up from the Union Station and we couldn't speak a word of English, she couldn't speak a word of Polish or Yiddish or anything, but we just smiled.
We did.
And I remember it was such a hot day in Kansas City, the perspiration.
No.
And she apologized for the weather. It was one of the hottest in the summer, if I remember correctly. And we wanted to be dressed properly, so we were dressed in suits of clothes. It was just really bedlam.
Oh my.
But anyway, Esther, every time I see you, and it's such a small world, and it's such a coincidence that we would run into each other, again. and we would greet each other. And I said, "Oh my God, this is the lady who helped us the first day we arrived in this country. You know, this is something unforgettable."
right.
And Isaac and I were just looking at each other, and we thought, "Oh, what a lovely volunteer woman she is." You worked at that time, I guess, for the Jewish Family Services?
I did.
Well, you picked us up from the airport, and from the Union Station, of course. We rode 2 days. And I remember on the intercom at the station, they announced if there's anyone available who can speak Polish or Yiddish, because they wanted to do something about the menu. They wanted to give us some food. But anyway,
On
we
the
managed.
train.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
We managed to meet, and you drove us. And you drove us to our respective places. We were rooming and board.
Right.
And my brother, in blessed memory, Aaron, you remember him?
I do.
He and Isaac were rooming together. So you took him to Mongol,
Uh-huh.
was it 39th in Mongol, to live with the family.
Uh-huh.
And then you took us to Aleph, also on 45th Street, somewhere in that neighborhood, to Mrs. Moskowitz. She had a blind daughter, and I don't know if you remember that. She
No,
lived
I
with a
don't
blind
remember
daughter.
that.
Anyway, my sister and I, who's also deceased.
I remember
Yeah.
her. I do
So
remember.
we got room and board, and you got us settled,
Uh-huh.
and we hugged and kissed, and we thought we'll see each other again.
Uh-huh.
Well, we didn't exactly know and understood the address, and we didn't know, not speaking any language.
You didn't
We
know
didn't
where
know
you were.
exactly. Well, we got into the apartment and we got unpacked, and then we thought we were going to get together with the boys.
Uh-huh.
Or the boys were going to get together. Well, they found us. Not by address, but by the look of a building somewhere.
On the
Oh, my
street.
goodness.
But
Yeah,
anyway,
right.
this was something that I will never forget, and I'm passing all this to my kids. And if I tell Art, my kids here, who was here this evening, Esther Levens, Esther Cohen, right?
That's right, Esther.
And that was our big step here, and it led us to nothing but nice things. Nothing.
You had a really
the beginning
beautiful
was
life since then.
Yeah,
I know.
and,
With wonderful children.
well, we were just very, very lucky. We'll talk about how we wound up in Kansas City and why.
Would you tell?
probably-
Would you tell
You want to
us
do it now?
right now? Uh-huh.
Okay. We came here, and then Isaac and I, of course, brought each other from Germany. And we were going to get married. We had plans.
Yeah.
Isaac befriended Rabbi Stern, who was very nice to us, and he officiated at our wedding.
Oh, he
He
did.
called up, and we still had that joke. He called Isaac, and he says, "You know what? You've got this girl, and I think it's time already that you should get married to her." So Isaac says, "You know what, Rabbi? Why don't you call her up?"
I said, you call
And we
her.
still have a joke about that, because Isaac proposed through the rabbi, and the rabbi set up the date. And we were
Really?
married here 6 months after we were in the country. So that's how our life started, is that the Jewish Chronicle at that time had a big ad, and they talked about how concentration camp couple is going to the altar.
Uh-huh.
And it was a big article, and the community just poured out. They made showers for us and did all these lovely things. And Mr. Bettinger had a building on 63rd and Brookside at that time, which was
Remember
a
him.
synagogue.
I do remember him.
And so he took his pride, for brides and grooms, he'd like to help. So he let us use the East Synagogue, and it was September the 22nd, a pouring down rain Sunday, and they had 500 people at that synagogue. Showed up people whom I never met, I never
Really?
knew, and they showered us with monies and with gifts.
They gave me $300.
They gave us enough to buy a bedroom set. I wish I had it today. So that was a very good start for us. I mean, we realized that we have a warm family here. And the reason you wanted to know, Esther, why we came to Kansas City?
Yes, I did. Uh-huh.
Well, the Jewish Agency, Federation and Family Services met with us in New York. they wanted to know. They said, this is a free country. You could do anything you wish. You could go anywhere in the cities, anywhere. Do you have sponsors? Do you have anyone that, will sponsor you? Though we didn't have.
You came through
The Jewish
Highest,
Federation,
was it?
highest, and
Uh-huh.
is the one who brought us down here, Jewish Federation, Kansas City.
Uh-huh.
So we decided we're going to leave it up to whoever it is. And we'll just come to any community that they think might be a good community for us. And Kansas City at that time was really very anxious to welcome newcomers because they didn't. That was right after the war, and they weren't newcomers here yet.
Uh-huh.
Ours was among the first group, in fact.
It was the first
You
group
remember
that
that? Yeah,
that I knew.
When we came here, and the people welcomed us, and as you know, you welcomed us, and you saw to us that we had places to go, and we were invited to people's homes, and we were being called, and anytime there was a Jewish event in town, we were invited to go out with them. And finally, when we had a family, Isaac went, with the kids to Sunday school and Hebrew school in 62 in Rock Hill.
Uh-huh.
And that's where we met Sherman Dreisesson, Marley Brown, and he met all these people in the library.
Really?
And they said, you know what? You've been here a year or two, it's time for you to become active in the community.
Yeah.
Which he did. And he started out with Federation. And because Federation was so wonderful to us, we felt like we wanted to repay in some way.
Uh-huh.
So financially we couldn't do it yet at that time, but he did take a division on while he was working in the furniture division. And I started with Sisterhood and Federation and all that. And so this is how it came about. This has been a wonderful community for us, and we have been so grateful. My whole family came here.
Is that right?
Yeah, Sonia came here, well, whatever was left of us.
Uh-huh.
My brother, my sister, two of my brothers, Sonia's husband, remember?
Uh-huh.
And my youngest brother who passed away a couple of years ago, and my sister. And then there were 6 of us. Remember the Jack Mandelbaum?
I do remember him.
And do you
Uh-huh.
remember...
Of course I remember him. He was with you on
Mandelbaum
the...
cousins, yeah. He was on the same ship.
On the same...
Ship.
And the same... He arrived at the Union Station.
Yes,
Yeah.
At
exactly.
the same time, I remember.
And he had an
Uh-huh.
uncle with him who also came with us.
I
We're still
didn't remember
friends.
that. Is that right?
Well, he's in Poland right now.
I know.
But we're very good friends with him.
Oh, I know.
So I say Kansas City's been, I couldn't ask for more. It's like it's been my home all the time.
But could we talk a little bit about where you came from
Sure.
previous to coming
Absolutely.
here and what experiences you
Well,
had?
I was born in Poland, and the name of my town was Będzin, Bndzin. And it was, I would say, would you say Będzin was closer
About 20 kilometers.
to Krakow? Or
20 kilometers.
Yeah, 20 kilometers from Isaac. And as far as I remember when I was a little girl, until I started growing up, we had a good family life. My father and my mother both had big families. And there were always holidays and parties, birthdays and things like that, that we were always together.
Uh-huh.
The uncles would come and they would bring oranges and they would bring candy for the kids, especially on Shabbat. Shabbat was a day where no matter how far you lived, you didn't have transportation. The uncles and the aunts would get together in the afternoon, after shul, after dinner, lunch, and reminiscing what we always kept together. And sometimes, families lived together with their parents.
Uh-huh.
Mother was living
It
with
was
the
a
grandmother and everything. But anyway, my life, as I remember going to school.
You went to school.
Oh, sure. I went to school until the Nazis came into my town, and I was 7th grade. And but I remember good times, and I remember not such good times, because what I remember about school was when it came to religion, and they taught religion in school, that the Jewish kids had to leave the room, And little things like that. Kids who used to live in our court, and we used to play with them. And we didn't understand what they were talking about in those days. I was a kid. We were playing like any other kids do. And little kid would come out and say, oh, in Polish, she would say, you Jews, she would stoop her feet and she would say, you go to Palestine, it's to Palestine.
Yeah.
And so we started to learn, and my dad, blessed memory, said, well, we're not leaving. When the Nazis came in and we still had a chance to leave the town, a lot of people were evacuating. My dad said, no, it could never happen. It's never going to happen. I'm not leaving my house. I'm not leaving my family. I'm not going anywhere. So it did happen, and I didn't finish school. I didn't finish 7th grade, which is in September of 42. See, I was in 39 when I was a kid, and in 42 I was already 17 when the war broke out. And one morning we saw where they were burning our synagogue where we lived just next door. We were in Poland with my kids, 18, 19 years ago, we took my family to Poland, and we showed them. It's still in ruins, that synagogue. We thought they would rebuild it, but they haven't. I remember when the synagogue was being built, it burned, and we were already in the ghetto where we couldn't get out. We couldn't after 7 o'clock. We were free, but we couldn't get out after 7 o'clock, remember? So they burnt our synagogue. And just up the hill, which we showed the kids the church, up the hill from them was a church, and there was a lovely minister, very unusual. And he opened up the doors and let us go in there, those of us who survived. But anyway, that's how it started. And then one morning they made the announcement that every one of the Jewish people in town have to report to a great big, it was like a football park. And that we will be back. And we have to report. So my brother had a family already of 2 children and a wife. And in those days you had to pair up, you had to scoot together because there wasn't enough room. They came in from other cities. And then we had to share housing with other people. So my sister-in-law already, my brother had already...
In the ghetto.
Yeah. My brother had already been in the working camps, her husband, my brother, and the 2 children, and she scooted in with some other family. She lived with another family, Polish family. They opened up the doors, some of them. When we had to go to report to the ghetto, to that football field, we stopped, we walked and stopped and picked up my sister-in-law and 2 girls, 2 little girls. One was 6 and one was 4, And the woman opened up the doors, I still see her, and she said, Chava, why don't you leave the kids with me? She didn't even know what was going on. I'll take care of your kids while you're going. You don't have to drag the kids with you. So my sister-in-law said, oh no, I want to take my kids with me. And lo and behold, we all reported that day. And the end of it was that we never made it back home. They sorted out old people and children and young people in groups. They put them next fences. If I'm wrong, correct?
Yeah.
And
They killed them.
the kids went immediately on a train or on a bus, and the old people too, and they kept the young people to working camps. And see, that's where I came in. And my sister-in-law too. So they took the kids away from her immediately that day. And the old people went, and we were young enough because the Germans need people to work. So we were lucky because they took us to camps, but the kids never made it. So then I wound up on a train. They put us on a train at night, and we rode up in the mountains to Czechoslovakia, Czech Republic. And we came in at night time, and then we were showing a warehouse. and with bunk beds, and they showed us where we were going to store our stuff. They still had little closets, and eventually they took them away from us, to store our clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing you know, in the morning we went out and they counted us, the heads outside. Every morning we had, we call it a appeal. And they divided us into groups and they gave us jobs. Now, I was in a working camp. I was not in a concentration camp. Later it became that. But I was in a camp working for a German company. And in Czechoslovakia, the people from the outside came in and also works in that camp. And the reason we have pictures that you're looking at, I'll show you later, from way home, is because we had foresight, my sister and I, to take those pictures with us into the factory and put them into the workbenches, how the women have for clothing. Mm-hmm. And that's how we were able to save a manila envelope with a few pictures. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had a picture of my family.
Oh,
See. So they divided us up. My sister was working for a machine that is probably as big as my family room. That was made cotton from raw stuff, makes cotton for clothing. Mm-hmm. And I was in the next department. And so we used to see, we were together all the time. They let us do that. Mm-hmm. So we worked there, and we worked there for 3.5 years, laboring like 12 hours. And some of the Czechoslovakian people came in from the outside, and they realized that they were prisoners, but they weren't supposed to talk to us. But mm-hmm. they did, some of them. And we had some people who were kind of closing their eyes to that. Mm-hmm. So they would have, every once in a while, in Murta especially, there was a young man, a mechanic, I can still see him. Every once in a while he would have a little roll with meat in it or cheese in it or something, and he would say, we had barrels we worked with, and we had material that we made. And he would sneak some of the stuff under the cotton, and he would say, barrel number 4, go find it. And we would always have a little something, a nahu or something like that. So the people really were very caring, but they were scared to death. They weren't supposed to talk. So we worked like 12 hours every day. And we were fenced in. We were like prisoners, that we could never go out anywhere or do anything. And the government, the people who had the factory got all this money that we made for them.
Sure.
We worked, and they made the money. I don't know who they shared it, maybe with the government. I don't know how that worked. But anyway, my life wasn't a good one. But
3.5 years.
my sister in the meantime got sick over there. And she developed TB. Do you remember that?
I
She
do
went to
remember
the
that.
hospital in
Leavenworth,
memory is
was
wonderful.
Was it Leavenworth?
No, she went to Denver.
Denver.
She went to Denver to the hospital there. It was a TB hospital there.
Mm-hmm.
And she spent a whole day. Do you remember? A whole year. Do you remember Manny Speck?
Yes.
The B'nai Brit got her in there.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then I had a younger sister who came to us because we were still a little bit lenient and we could do things a little more than the concentration camp people would. So, because we were good workers, we were afraid not to be. So they brought my little sister over there because we knew she was still in the ghetto because my oldest sister, it's a long story, was still there and she was looking after her. But then they got to everyone else. Judenrein, they got rid of everyone. So they took my little sister and they shipped her to my camp, which was wonderful because 3 of us were together.
What camp was that?
It was Parshnitz, it's called, in Sudetenland. Parshnitz by Trutnov. And that was Czech Republic is today. It was Czechoslovakia, up in the mountains. We went to see it. Isaac and the family went to see the camp. Now it's all computerized, In those days, with hands we worked. So, if we didn't stay in line and we didn't behave ourselves the way that we should, and some of the girls got out of line, opened up a little bit. They send you out to Auschwitz immediately. I remember there was a woman from my hometown with a daughter, and they were bed-mouthing this woman. We had us as women, and she bed-mouthed this woman, and they sent her out to Auschwitz that night. So, I mean, you couldn't play around with them. But anyway, going back to my little sister, got sick because she was working a project of water coming through the fabric. It's unexplainable, but anyway, there was always a lot of water and steam, a lot of steam. And she got sick, and probably had pneumonia, who knows. And you know, you don't say that you are sick as long as you can stand up on your feet. But she was our baby, you know. She was the youngest one. She was all of 12, 13 years old at that time.
Oh my goodness.
And so we had...
And she was working 12 hours a day.
We had a room where they had supposedly like a nursing room for nurses to supposedly give you aspirins. That night, apparently Auschwitz needed a quota. Auschwitz women, he acted like a rabbi, what do you call it, a chaplain. He was a
Chaplain, he was a good guy.
A doctor he happened to be.
He was my buddy.
He put him on the train. After the liberation, he found Isaac in a pair of pajamas.
Yeah.
He was in the United States Army or the
No, this was
Russian
still-
Army?
This was still in Germany.
Okay.
Not in Germany, he was in
England?
England.
Yeah, well, he was English.
Yeah.
English. Oh, I see.
Yeah. So
He was my buddy.
he came into the camp, you told me,
Yeah.
and he found Isaac and he said to him, "Are you a Yid?" And he says, "Yes." And he said to him in these words, "Don't be mad at the world."
Yeah.
What did he say to
Yeah.
you?
He said, don't,
Now, don't be mad at the world, but you pull yourself up. And he drove him to an English hospital. And because he was 80 pounds, he weighed. This
I was
kid.
80 pounds by that time.
He took him to the hospital because he had typhoid fever.
Oh, my.
And he weighed 80 pounds. I don't want to speak for you, but you could.
That's okay.
And this Dr. Blumfield, whom we went to see in Manchester, we went to visit him.
Did you?
Yeah.
Another reunion. We went there, we had tea and trumpets with the family, and it was wonderful. And he couldn't believe it. We went with the Mellons, with Mellon, and
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
my.
They were with us.
us.
in the days when we could travel.
Uh-huh.
Dr. Blumfield said he didn't guarantee that he would live. So they took him
He
and
saved your life,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
they cleaned him up and they gave him intravenous and they brought him back, and that's when they put you back and you came back to Bergen-Belsen.
Yeah.
You put some clothes on him and he went to Bergen-Belsen, and that's how it all started.
As a displaced person, then.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
He said, "Don't
Blumfield
be mad
was
at
such
the
a
world."
wonderful guy, a Jewish guy.
Yeah, he took care of him, Dr. Blumfield.
And he was with the army.
And you want to hear the best one? After that many years, we were there in England like 20 years ago, probably.
Yeah.
It's quite some time since he saw Isaac.
Oh, yeah.
He recognized him immediately. You know, he put his finger, this is the guy.
Oh, my goodness.
And they brought their daughter.
Imagine what that made
Their daughter
him
came
feel
to
like.
visit.
How proud he
And
was.
the wife came to be with us, and we went their home. We found their place.
You
We
did.
made it our business to come and visit them. It was quite a reunion we had. Dr. Blumfield, he died there a couple of years ago. Well, we were corresponding with them all these years.
So then, how did you get to the train? Were you together at the time you
No.
you got on the train, or
No,
Later
we-
on.
to Kansas
So
City?
out of Bergen-Belsen we went, they transferred us to a place in Germany called Bad Nauheim that was not too far from Frankfurt am Main. And that was a beautiful city, a lot of soldiers lived there. And it was more or less like a spa area. It was a beautiful little town. They shipped us out of there by train, and we stayed in Bad Nauheim in a hotel. They gave us some hotels. The Germans, they had to give up some places for us. We didn't pay. We had cards that we were displaced people, and we could travel free, that stuff. So
The
we stayed
Germans
in that
were afraid
hotel.
of us.
Yeah, we stayed there until,
They did everything we wanted to do.
and see, we
They helped
registered.
us a lot.
Yeah, we registered to come to this country from Bad Nauheim. But what happened was, in Bad Nauheim, Isaac and my brothers, they started a little synagogue over there. They cleaned up a synagogue and they made it nice. And out of there, we stayed there. They spent a lot of time. And President Truman, you remember the story? President Truman gave a speech at that time that he is opening the doors to 100,000 displaced persons.
Yeah.
If you remember that, I don't know if you remember.
I
that.
don't remember that.
And it's thanks to President Truman that we are here, actually, because they opened the doors on first come, first served basis, whoever. And Isaac, my brothers listened to the radio at that time. And they rushed and registered us. And that's when we waited in Bad Nauheim 9 months before we liberated, before we went out of there. Because we went to Frankfurt, to the big city. And we registered there. And they gave us the quota. And they bought us our, cards to go. But we waited 9 months. And that's how we came to the United States. It wasn't just getting on a plane. You had to be a citizen, a displaced person, and do all these things. We went through checkups, and we waited, and then we got a telegram that we are able to go now.
Is that right?
They were wonderful. They took care of us.
But that town we lived in for 9 months.
And name the town again?
Bad Nauheim, they call it.
Bad Nauheim.
Bad Nauheim. Bad means bad, and it was famous from that. It's German.
It's Germany.
Bad Nauheim, but Heim means
And that
the
was,
bed of the home.
and where was this?
It was near Frankfurt am Main
I see.
that we lived.
Yeah, just a little bit.
And then you waited
Yeah,
to get the
till we were immigrated.
permission or the papers to get
that's right.
the
We got-
documents.
We had to come and report again and get checkups and got help. If you had a problem, you couldn't pass. And wait our turn. And because we registered. And a lot of people who didn't register didn't get on the list. But they had the foresight because they listened to the radio that day. And Isaac was saying to the family, we were brothers, my brother Aaron and my sister. John was not one of them because they came later. He said, I'm going to America, Isaac said to them. I'm going to America. And they said, look at that big shot. Who wants you in America? Why do you think you're going to America? You think they need you there? And Isaac said, but I'm gonna try. They didn't think we could make it.
I told her
My
to
brothers
come
didn't
with
think we
me.
could make it. My sister and brother.
And then when you came here, you actually were very successful in
You went to work.
business.
It's hard work that makes you.
5
We went to
years I
work.
struggled.
We didn't know
And after
anything
that
about
I went to work. Beautifully.
Yeah, he didn't know anything about work because he was a student. He was in school. But he learned quick.
You were in the upholstery
Yeah.
business,
Yeah.
if I remember.
Today they got electric things, a stapler for the text. Those the spit text in those days. And he learned that quick.
Yeah.
He worked for a person. And after 2-3 years, he got angry with him, and he said, well, I'm going to quit. So I was already expecting my daughter Shelley, who is now 60. She was in November. And Isaac came home. She said, I quit my work. I said, oh, what are you going to do now? I said, don't worry. He called up my brother Aaron, and they went in business. They both went in business, in the upholstery business. He says, if that guy can do it, I can do it. So the first place was on 12th and Trust, and they schlepped a sofa bed from the 3rd floor because they had to, at cheap rent. And when I had the baby, he took the baby to work with him. Remember, Shelley?
Really?
Yeah. Because we
That's
couldn't
right.
afford a
They took the
sitter, and
baby
he
with
wasn't going to
them.
leave the baby by herself. And she's
Because you were working.
Pardon? I was working too, but not very long. I got pregnant. He said then I didn't have to do anything. I got pregnant like a year after. So I worked for Brendan Puritz,
Uh-huh.
if you remember that
I
place.
do remember, sure.
And then Mr. Bettinger gave me. I was lining trunks. Those that the kids take to camps, you know.
Uh-huh.
That's what I was doing. And we made a little money and saved one check. And one check we lived on. One went into the bank immediately.
Isn't
A little
that
check,
a wonderful
but it went into
story?
the bank.
Isn't that wonderful? And the upholstery business turned into a furniture business,
It
is
was.
that right?
It was a
So
poster
you
furniture.
sort of made the furniture?
No,
is
we
that-
made the upholstered stuff, just the stuff.
Uh-huh,
Like, sofa beds
Uh-huh.
and sleeping.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then, is the business still in existence?
For 25
It's gone.
years I
Yeah.
worked
He
over
had
there.
it for
For
25
25 years,
And
and
that
then I
was-
decided, I sold this bench. And then I decided to do with something else.
So what did you do? You went into jobber business.
This is Java business.
Fabric.
Another
Fabric.
25 years, yeah, but fabric.
And
We
I
did
traveled.
well.
I traveled with him. The kids were already in college.
Did you really?
Yeah, we traveled together by car. We had such a good time.
Yeah.
I miss it. It was wonderful. It was some experience.
Well,
Isaac had made
I
so
I
was-
many.
had customers all over the country.
Did you really?
Real nice people. Wonderful, beautiful people.
And you knew the fabric business from the ground up, didn't you? From the
That's right. So
from the
that's-
beds up.
it was just
I never had a problem with it.
Perfect. Uh-huh.
Never had a problem. We worked together and everything came up.
made a lot of friends with that.
That's such a wonderful story. And you're such a beautiful couple, honestly. It's so,
Thank you. We're here.
it's so wonderful to see you. I just can't tell you how much it means to me.
Well,
Yeah, she's
it's a pleasure. It's
she's
a
the
pleasure.
best part of it.
You like that statement, huh?
You know,
I
that's-
agree. I think I'm wonderful. We can laugh about
I
it now.
think you're both wonderful.
Well, this
They-
community, we have good friends, and we just love it. You couldn't get us out of it.
Kansas City has just been beautiful. Just
We're so
wonderful.
lucky to have
But
you.
look what you've added to Kansas City. I mean, it's really such a heartwarming story that really came from really nothing in terms of what you came with. It was out the $50.
Yeah.
Two Jewish guys were waiting over there, and I was over there waiting to go on a bus or something.
Uh-huh.
He said, "Where you going?" And we talked a little bit, and I said, "What do you do?" and all that. And we became buddies. So
Yeah, he makes friends in a hurry.
Oh, with you're both such sincere and such wonderfully sweet people.
Well,
It's just
You know,
so uplifting
our
to be
friends.
with you.
we,
Really.
And
we
it's
had wonderful people.
such
always.
memories are wonderful. Those things are what makes a person really live. You have something to live for. And we owe so much to the community that we try very hard to do things, but of course now we're getting a little older and we're not that active anymore, like we used to be. But we owe everything to this community. And every
They've
time
been
Isaac
wonderful to us.
had a chance, he speaks about, he used to talk about Federation and all the things that they have done. And now our children are active.
Yeah.
My daughter used to work in Federation Santa Barbara. And of course my son is on every committee right now. He loves it. He just loves to do that. As busy as he is.
So you more than given back, I would
Well,
say.
There's never enough, but
Yeah.
But we
But
try.
it's such an inspiration to talk
That's
Just
about.
look at
wonderful.
the things you're doing, and you never went through, thank God, anything that we're talking about. And look at all the things you have done for this community.
Well, that's nice to hear. Thank you.
Well, which is the honest truth.
That's so nice to hear.
Actually, it's just because you're a wonderful person and you feel like the Jewish people, Israel need you. And that's
I
what you
think that I'm old enough to know what it was like before Israel was a country, and how helpless the Jewish people were, and how in Kansas City there was so much anti-Semitism.
Yeah,
Whether
sure.
you experienced it or not, I don't know. But there were so many things that if you were Jewish, you couldn't participate in. I guess you know all that.
Oh, sure. We couldn't live at Leawood where we are right now.
Exactly.
Are we lucky or what?
Exactly. And
The country clubs and all that stuff.
the country
I
clubs.
remember.
If you were a doctor, you couldn't. That's why Menorah Hospital was
That's
founded.
right. That's exactly right.
Rich Hastings
She
spoke
talked
about
about
it.
St. Luke's Hospital, the CEO, was he the one?
Uh-huh.
We just met with her.
Yeah, I know. She told me. She told me that she saw you at the
Coffee
Panaris.
place. That's how we
At
met.
the or you
That's
told
how we
me.
met,
You
Marilyn.
told me, I guess. Anyway, but
And she was a good thing too that we met.
isn't she wonderful?
She's a great girl. I love her.
Isn't she just
She's just
unbelievable?
wonderful.
She wants us to sign the book, you know, From the Heart. Have you got that book?
No.
There, sweetie, let me go in there. Get that book in the family room.
Oh,
She
who
was
wrote
given.
that?
She was given a book. We had autographs from different people. I mean, you know, and she wanted us to autograph her book, From the Heart. And
I know.
you want to see it. You have a book like that, Esther?
No.
Oh, you would want to read it. We'll try to get you.
Well, I just hope that we can get together.
We will. This is
Can we get
Isaac and
together?
this is
Sure.
Aaron.
Why not?
Okay.
We will get
We love
together, I
you.
promise you.
I love you, honestly.
It's been just wonderful. We told you the story. The liberation was wonderful. Coming to Kansas City was great. And as I said, we're very lucky.
Kansas City
I
was
have
just
no
wonderful.
regrets.
I saw two guys, told you that. I said, that's where you ought to go to
Kansas City.
Kansas City.
And that was it.
That was it.
It's a good time.
Isn't
Isaac says,
that-
where is that? What's Kansas City? We couldn't even pronounce it that time. He says,
said,
it's the
"Go."
middle of the country and you'll be able to travel out of there wherever you want. We have really traveled a lot.
Have you?
Yeah, in our young years we did.
Yeah, it's been
All
wonderful.
these nice things we did.
And they kept missing each other. And I really thought, and she's spoken at conferences, pro-Israel conferences in Poland and in Czechoslovakia and in Slovakia. And they have pro-Israel conferences, and they're Christians and they're Polish, and these young people have a project in which they deliver food and blankets and all kinds of, day-to-day living needs to people who are survivors, who are isolated, who are still living in Poland, and that's a project. So that's what she did. She'd go with them to various people's
Project should be
houses.
a little
And
interesting.
you should meet her when she comes to Kansas City.
Well, you have to let me know.
Yeah, I will. Because I didn't know any Christians, and all of a sudden,
Oh, wow, there you are.
and
Is that
Oh,
it?
that's good.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
The next one will be Isaac.
Was that here in Kansas City?
Oh, that's when we were not even married yet. I'll show you pictures before you go.
Okay.
I hate to stay too long.
No, honey, please. What do you think we're doing? We're watching the game. We're either watching the game or
You're
making
not-
making love. You think we're making love at that age? We can wait.
All right, I'm going to tell.
I don't
I'm
need to
going to
embarrass
tell
you.
on you. I'm going to quote you all over the place here. I hope you got that on tape.
Well, I got the audio.
Are we too old for that or what? Esther is afraid we're
I hope I'm not when I'm your age.
Esther is afraid we're going to miss anything, sweetie. Do you think we will?
No,
No,
You got all that.
no.
I'm not gonna miss.
But you're so darling, the two of you. I tell you, I just really love you both.
God, he's a good kid.
You're wonderful.
He worked so hard.
62 years.
And it seems
Worked
like
so hard to do.
That's the
Look at all the things I have. It's all what he did. All the things we have. The kids went to fine colleges, the grandkids and the kids. Was Yale, Brown University, and then one of the East Coast I forgot. My kids here went to KU,
Uh-huh,
you know, and MU, and Art graduated from KC,
uh-huh.
from law school. Oh, are you doing mine arm?
Yeah.
Is that, oh, how we holding?
Yeah.
That's nice. That's what we do all the time.
That's awesome.
I love
Me
it.
and my wife still hold
I
hands.
love that.
I hope to never stop.
I love that.
We have 8 children.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I understand some of these
That's
things.
to be part of our thing. They're going to say these guys have do nothing, but they have fun. What else are they doing? What else are they doing? I want to show you a beautiful picture of me, not like this today. I don't remember what page we are here.
50.
But they talked about all the refugees.
This is a better tape than the.
Hmm.
This is better.
Yeah.
Well, then we were younger. You know what? So many of us are no longer here. We lost an awful lot of people. We're coming there. Let me show you.
I know, it's really so sad.
That's Maria the Weekly.
You're going too far.
Maria, would Maria want to do this? Or she wouldn't? Is she not all right?
She's okay, but I don't think she would do
Okay.
She's busy.
it. Bronya.
She's busy.
Bronya wrote a book, you know.
No.
She's
Yeah, she
writing.
wrote a children's book for kids.
Maria?
Yeah. No, Bronya. Bronya Rozlavovsky, you know her? The big
I do. Was she a hairdresser?
No, June was. She's gone. Now he is. It's a better picture. We were good-looking kids. See that?
Mhm.
Not bad. I'll show you the rest. That's where they wrote us.
You're still good-looking kids.
Huh?
You're still good-looking kids.
I think so too.
This is old. I don't even remember where they got this picture, but that's way back.
It's wonderful.
I asked the woman who was
wonderful.
doing it, I said, well, do you want to come and get a
I
picture?
must
She said,
have
well,
this.
we've got a picture of the file for you. It's from the Chronicle. It came, let's see, what issue was that? The June issue. They came to various people and took pictures, and those of us that were on their file, we didn't have to do anything but
You
give the
know-
story. Here's
you
a
know-
story about it. This is Brenda, you know her.
Little boy.
Oh, I do. Uh-huh.
Yeah, she
Little
wrote a
Brenda.
book. Someone wrote a little book about her.
Do you know that I'm the lady that applied to have this conference, this workshop in the conference in Nashville? Is a young woman, and she has a PhD. She teaches at the university, and she put Joanne Magnuson together with me and our story. And she has wanted to write a children's book about Eddie Jacobson
Oh,
and the friendship that changed the world, you know.
and you know.
Now I've got it. We've been working on it and it's just about finished. We have to find an illustrator and we're going to publish it.
You know, it was Eddie Jacobson also who was instrumental partially of our coming because they were buddies with Truman.
That's right.
You remember that?
I absolutely remember that. Yes.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm trying to do now? You were at the evening they had the story of Eddie Jacobson at the temple?
I wasn't there, but
Oh,
I heard that it was something we shouldn't have missed.
Yeah.
They had the
Well, let
story
me
of
tell
Eddie
you,
Jacobson and President Truman's life. I heard.
Yes. Now,
Someone said they thought they saw me too, but I wasn't.
I thought I saw you.
Yeah. Well, tell me, what is your title?
My title?
The United
Esther
States.
Levens.
United States what?
My title?
Yeah.
Ambassador of Middle East Peace.
Now, what you doing exactly?
Oh, it's the Unity Coalition for Israel. And we have another website called Democracy Under Attack, which deals with the broader problem of radical Islam and the theology and the anti-Semitism and a lot of secular problems right now with Iran. And I really wanted to ask you if you see any parallel between what's happening worldwide now with radical Islam and the takeover of Europe and the take of.
What do you think about that?
What do you think about that?
I'm worried a little bit
I don't
about
think
it.
it's good.
I'm very worried.
Yes, I
Very
am
worried.
too.
Questions?
Good to see you.
If you want to cut some stuff out, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you'll hear from me. You'll hear from me. Okay. Very good.